Sucking on my London, hey, hey, do the sucking day, do tick, 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 tick.
Goodbye and welcome to the 3T RPG podcast. My name is Harrison Hunt and with me is James Clark.
Goodbye.
Today we've got a show for you ladies. It's going to be the, and gentlemen and other
Nondescript toaster,
type people.
Possums.
Those two. This is going to be the last one, probably for a long while, maybe ever. We don't know, but we're going to get to that later. Going to talk about what we've been, like, what's going on, why we need to stop doing the podcast, and it's basically your fault, listeners, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
like, mainly, innit?
I mean, mainly it's yeah.
But it is over, seriously. But that's going to be the main subject. Before that, we're going to do feedback. We're going to talk about what we've been playing and what you're saying. Then we're going to do the main subject. The podcast is over. And then we're going to go into Electro letters. We've still got some of your listeners' RPGs hot takes from last time and some general questions about anime for some reason.
Oh, that's quite good.
All right, let's do some feedback.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes, bitch, the feedback side. It's the feedback section.
Yeah, we take your comments and read them out. Yeah, feedback, bitch.
There was only one feedback here. Murder Hobo, he said, another episode without Sean. Get fucked. Well, this is another episode without Sean. And also, from now on, it's going to be an episode without any of us.
Yeah,
so why don't you,
on that,
count your chickens before you fuck them?
Yeah, because then otherwise, you don't know.
Exactly. Right, that is it for feedback. Shall we go into what we've been playing?
Yeah.
And one of these.
Oi, yeah? What you slaying?
All right, so MCC campaign had to come to an end for similar reasons of the podcast. So we needed to end up wrapping it up.
Well, I'm going to cut in here straight away, right? Harrison says he needed to wrap it up, which, yes, he did for the reasons that we're going to go into in the main subject. However, I will point out immediately that, and also a comment I made to like the guys as well afterwards, it couldn't have felt more natural because of everything that happened in the entire session.
There was a way that you guys could have wrapped up quite easily that almost came to you, and that was due large in part to a lot of randomness that happened.
There was a lot of randomness / luck.
Good luck, yeah, really. The whole point of the MCC campaign is it's like 12,000 years after an apocalyptic event, mutants have become the sort of main humanity type species on the planet, and the tribe that the players belong to is the last and only one, as far as they were aware, right?
Yeah.
But they worship the ancient ones, which is like us from now, right? And like, so anything like a computer, a CD, anything like that can be like an artifact of the ancient ones. But they also, their god is this ancient computer called the Aldebaoth, which lives underneath the planet Terra AD that they live on, right? But the trouble is, there's all these old robot things, giant robots called archangels or archons that sort of guard over all the old. What would you call them? They're not dungeons.
Areas of civilization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And for some reason, though those are supposed to protect humanity and stop the things in the wild from attacking them, balance nature with humanity and let it thrive, what they've been doing instead is killing humanity.
Yeah. Just straight up doing some murder hobo.
But it's the reverse, though, because I did it. The GM's doing it this time. I kill everything. So and that also means that things in the wild have they've been allowed to prosper. Things that are very, very deadly. And the campaign sort of eventually ended up with the player characters trying to investigate why the angels have been doing this shit and all of this. And just out of sheer chance, right? So there was this other character, and I know I'm an idiot, ladies and gentlemen, but there's this other character called the Phobo Cop.
Yeah.
Who was essentially, he was part of another tribe called the Gene Police, and these, like, they kill mutants, that's what they do. And he was coming to kill the guys, and he at the same time when they were fighting one of these archangels. Now I rolled randomly for who the archangel was going to hit, because unbeknownst to the players, the archangel and Defoe-Cop, who is basically Willem Dafoe if he was RoboCop, they were
Like I had to explain that.
yeah, no, just in case. But yeah, basically they were not working together. So in the middle of the fight, I rolled randomly to see who gets hit, and Defoe-Cop gets hit by the archangel.
Oh yeah, he gets fucked up.
Suddenly he realises that the order that he's been given to kill humanity, there's the Yaldabaoth, the computer that controls all of the machines, who's their god, right? There must be something wrong with him, because suddenly he's getting attacked by one of the archangels who should be his mate. So he joined the party for a bit, now knowing that was the case, and at a certain point he let it slip that he'd met God once.
Yeah, and also during this entire time of him sort of playing along with us, not playing along, but joining our team and, trying to bring us around to the idea that he's actually trying to help us now, even though he was trying to kill us earlier. He said that he was basically having an internal struggle the entire time with himself to bring to just
to keep killing
this.
you. Yeah, because he was just like, well, that's weird. A month ago, God had told him to protect humanity. Now he's saying to kill only the ones that can mutate. Yeah. Which is weird, because before he saw them as part of humanity. So it's like he knows something's up, right? Anyway, long story short is that actually we'll talk about it a bit, because we did the level 2 adventure Into the Glowing Depths by Michael Curtis, I think is his name, isn't it? I think. Anyway, this level 2 adventure is one of the hardest MCC/DCC adventures we've ever done. Right?
Oh yeah, it was pretty nasty. Yeah.
Stupid as fuck. I mean, and the thing is, essentially what it is that players get summoned to this place called Tiamat Station. It's run by a psychic bit of coral that looks like a brain underneath the sea. Like, so far down that should they go out of it, they would just die instantly, right? And once they get there, this thing's giving them all sorts of orders, telling them that they need to kill this other tribe called Oceanus that live even deeper down the ocean, with no evidence or no shred of anything, only the threat of her saying
dying.
Yeah, because she's called Sheshmi, and she's like, well, look, just go. You have to kill that tribe, and if you don't do it, I'm just going to kill you. And
because she managed to not only just have psychic abilities to communicate with us, but some kind of telekinesis as well, because she could control certain parts of this compound.
Well, do you know what that was? So all it was that there is in one of the rooms, and it's one that you guys went into and you met her. There's a dead bloke he's like almost dead, basically brain dead, and he's folded over one of the console tables,
on and off switch kind of
deal.
So
she can psychically communicate with him, and then he sort of activates shit on the console. But that's why there's a bit in the book that says, oh, if any of the players are trying to move the body to use the console, then she reacts really badly to it. She's like, don't do that, kind of thing. But anyway, cool detail, I thought.
That is pretty awesome. So
they need to go and get a key card to then go to a lower level to go and get some dynamite. And and then off. But first of all, they needed to get the power back online. And you get attacked by a giant fish that can basically kill you in one. Yeah. And also, it's like, there's a class in MCC called Manimals, right? And they can obviously use mutations, which can be very powerful. And the trouble is that the first Manimals these guys ever fought, or the first mutants you guys ever fought, were from the Oceanus tribe. Just as these guys were about to dunk the fucking whole city that they live in with dynamite, they met a bunch of them, and one of them, and it's clear that they tried to balance the adventure by giving some of these Manimals the weaker powers, right? But there's one of those anglerfish with the lights on their heads.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got the light power, which you think, oh, well, that's not that bad. But
well, if you look at the table entry...
Yeah, if you get the highest result, there's something very different there, really. Because the guys got blinded for something like 8 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
One of you for 4, but some of you for 8.
Yeah, because it's saved to half.
And I just basically said, well, look, the adventure's over, right? They probably should kill you, but I'll throw you a bone and I'll say you get captured. So all the players, all the characters ended up dying, including the Phobocop, James's character then snatched up Robocop's hard drive to, because that would be handy. But you killed a city of about 1,000 people by using electrical generation, mutant power underwater.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. Like,
it was good.
That was pretty
It was
incredible.
good, but the jury was still out at that time as to whether or not that tribe was innocent.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't know.
Well, you didn't really have much of a choice.
No, we didn't have much of a choice, and it was like the only way to completely survive. And we had been, we were basically about to be executed anyway, because of how we ended up in the city and what we'd done to other people beforehand.
Yeah, it was literally you pulled out this move at the point where you were going to be executed.
Yeah, it was a fight or flight response, and then I killed a whole city. So
yep. Managed to get one of the other players back, who was a mold man named Dank, and we managed to get him back because there was a sort of cloning-ish station on Tiamat when they went back to Tiamat
considering
station.
she's a bit coral, which is like plant life-ish.
Yeah.
Then and then it had the ability to sort of regenerate some bits.
But the trouble is, what happens to a Plantium when they lose all of their mutations? Because essentially he got reborn, but not any mutations.
Yeah.
So he just turned back into normal mold.
Yeah.
So James then had to sort of he irradiated Dank again and made him back into a mutant.
Yeah.
Which was nice. But the trouble is that
he lost some wicked cool powers.
What was it? Molecular integration was the best one because it was a healing ability, but you could also repair things and return them to a state that they were in a month ago and things like this.
Yeah, so as long as you had something within determined by a role, you could restore something to a previous moment in time.
And to give a bit of context, most of the fights as these guys were going through Tiamat Station, Sean's character was doing good hits and stuff, but he was getting mucking in right with the combat. He would die, then Dank would use the molecular integration and revive him to a point 6 seconds ago, and then just keep doing that. So Sean's character, because I said as well, I was like, well, presumably if you're the state you were in 6 seconds ago, you'd also be standing up.
Yeah.
So it was just a case of Sean going down, getting up, and into a combat-ready position over and over again.
It's quite funny because Sean had a very large number of times been basically defibrillated by me and suffered the penalty of having his stamina stats decreased amongst others during the journey. So his character was pretty
he was
bunged up.
He's lost a lot of stats. He's been through the wars.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh yeah, you could JT had the ability to actually restore him back to when he had a lot of his attributes at a higher level, but that would have meant that particular mutations and gear
I mean, you really have to use it carefully.
Be not there, so we had to think.
But it was. I mean, the thing is, it sounds broken, but you do always run the risk of losing the mutation and replacing it with the defect if you roll badly and shit like this, right? So it was like and again, he died pretty terribly.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's not a balanced game. Mutations are extremely powerful, but the thing is that. It's also not a balanced game, so it just means that you can just die even if you're really fucking powerful. Yeah. What was sad was that Sean had just got his character temporary invulnerability, and if he used enough luck, he could withstand a nuclear blast. Yeah. So and it ended up just his actions, he just did them in the wrong order when you guys were captured. He grew to an immense size because he had the amplemorph ability to break out of his chains, and then tried to use temporary invulnerability. But by the time he'd broken out, that's when I said roll initiative. He lost initiative, he got shot, end of story.
Yeah.
And it was just like, if you'd have just done the invulnerability first, everything would have been ended up different. But yeah, so that adventure being a level 2 adventure is
insane.
It's a good laugh, is what it is. It's a funny joke.
Considering I'm pretty certain. Yeah, I was level 4.
Yeah.
During that. So I was actually level 4 during that adventure, as was Sean, and JT's new character was also he was level 2 or 3 at the time. So
grabbing a beer, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, so we had a level 2, a level 3, a level 4, right? Is that right? And still absolutely fucky, but there we go. Still, the whole point of it, what they ended up getting was some XP. Although technically killing 1,000 people in this game only counts as one encounter. You know, too bad, too sad. And they got the Phobocop's hard drive with the supposed meeting of God on there. And they got use of Tiamat Station. Although the woman that runs it is a complete bitch that nobody liked, that forced them into killing a bunch of people they didn't want to.
Yeah.
So that was basically, I mean, so their reward for the mission was basically to continue being alive.
Pretty much.
But not all of you.
The only kind of reward that there was like a glimmer of was just having the ability to reproduce Dank.
That's a good point, yeah, because you could use the facilities on Tiamat Station, but
so did that, and then had to sort of make our way back home.
And Sean's new character, he decided to go for a shaman, so a well, technically all characters in MCC are mutants, right? But there are pure strained humans who their mutations, they don't get mutations. So he decided to go for a shaman, and they can use wetware programs, and they have a patron, so they can call on their god at any point, albeit with some consequences, and get cool powers. So he went for Mangala Planetary Defense System, so it's all combat-based stuff. He could generate a laser sword out of thin air and things like this, and and his new character is a shaman sent from another neighbouring planet by Mangala to help with the Angel Crisis. Now, the reason that Mangala didn't intervene directly is because there was a war going on their planet. So he sent what he could spare, which happened to be one guy and a cache of weapons, which I think is a cool way to come into the campaign. So Sean's character, Silicius, then had to accompany these guys back home, where they were going to take the hard drive to their tribe leader, who was a robot, so that they could view its contents. And yeah, so I did a random table of all of the possible encounters in MCC from the book, and
it was great.
The last session, we ended up actually getting the final boss encounter needed to have faced every single, what I would say, boss monster in MCC. And what was it? Twice. There's this one that's basically Mothra called Evox, and that's come up 3 times now.
No, it's actually come up 4 times, I think.
I mean, that is really unlucky. They legged it and hid, basically. We got the Ether Squid as a giant sort of Cthulhu-type squid that descends from the sky.
Managed to kill it.
Using molecular disruption, which Dank now has. So he deleted 15% of his of the Ether Squid's matter.
Yeah, but described it in a way that basically cut it in half.
Yeah, so they dealt with that pretty well, actually. Actually. But what was cool was
just a horde of apes. Oh, no,
sorry. No, it could have been a horde, but you rolled good, so it's just one albino ape. And Sean, at a certain point, because I had locations on these tables as well for the encounters, and they would search locations for artifacts, the ancient ones. And one of the tools I would use is 100 Weird Widgets by 3T RPG Podcast, going by now, good product. You roll D100 and you get something usually quite useless and humorous.
Yeah.
But that a clever player might find something useful for. But in this case, Sean got the one-man hover car, which he quickly modified by putting 2 sort of wings on the side of it and office chairs for the other 2 players to sit on.
Yeah.
So yeah, the going home was basically them driving most of the way.
So it really sped up our journey.
It was good.
Really efficient, which was like one of the biggest.
Well, that was the biggest reason I would say that we managed to complete the story last session.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't happen otherwise.
It skipped a lot of time basically, but I mean, we mustn't gloss over the fact that we, during that time, still had an unbelievable amount of encounters to deal with.
And some of which didn't go terribly well, because like you mentioned, the albino ape. He
had the goat spiders twice.
Yeah, you had the goat spiders twice.
Disgusting. James
is afraid of spiders. Are you afraid of goats? Because that would be like your worst nightmare, right?
Nah.
The artwork is pretty gross.
Yeah, ugly as hell, man.
Yeah, and I said to Sean, well, I said to you lot that the way I sort of acted them out was that it was painful for them to be alive because they were just like, and
just screeching.
it was a particularly grim scene with you guys floating the hover car over a river, although this was later, and the spider goats were sort of roaming, looking around, all screaming and horrific. And then obviously you rolled on the locations table, and it was a what was it? Population control camp. So it was just like reams and reams of piles of dead bodies.
Yeah,
good times. Yeah, but anyway, they got back and they discovered that, yes, the Phobocop had indeed met the Elderbaoth, but the Elderbaoth didn't sound like an all-powerful god. He sounded like a deeply flawed individual that really doesn't have a handle on the very things he created.
Yep.
And there were some clues in there as to where they needed to go. So, because I'm a twat, it was always very, very near the starting location, because I kind of wanted it to be this sort of like, oh my god, we could have just gone there from session 1 type thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so they had to go into this mountain and fight God, and essentially through basic, very normal logic, because he's a machine, right? So the players are immediately like, he's a machine that is 100 feet tall and has the body of a snake and the head of a lion. And so the PC's like, hang on, you're a machine. So someone made you. And he's like, yes, that is not the point. I am the only God.
Yeah.
Like, no, wait a minute.
So I am the creator. And I was like, but you got created, man. Your name is Ted, isn't it?
James's character is Mexican. But yeah, and so it ended with them sort of like really annoying him. He gave you a minute to speak, and you hit him with all sorts of logic that when you think about it for only a second, he even realised he wasn't God. Like, he's got a lot of powers, but he's not God. Sean's character was sent to their planet with something called the Continuum Transfunctioner, which opens sort of a black hole, kind of. It's more of a black hole that goes between different dimensions. So in this campaign, although it almost never came up, you had the material, you had extraterrestrial space, which is space, and then superterrestrial space, which is above that. So it teleports you from material to superterrestrial space, using a sort of black hole like thing. And I just gave it to Sean thinking, look, he's not going to know what to do with this. And at one point, he almost used it on another random encounter, right?
Yeah, he did. He was like, oh, I think it's time. But fortunately...
we found another way around it.
Yeah, we found a very, very good way around it. Although it was the squid bitch.
It was the squid, yeah. And he almost used it on that. Used it on the last boss, which was... I don't know. I don't want to say it's clever, but it was like, it's good that he saved it for something truly meaningful.
Oh yeah, and it was absolutely just unbelievable. Just because obviously there was almost no chance of us winning.
No, I mean, it was really stacked against you, and things really got pretty difficult pretty early on. So there was one thing that every time these guys killed an angel, they got a new mutation, right? And it was making the characters more and more powerful. But as the campaign went on, where mutations got lost, new ones got gained, the ending, although you could have gone there straight away and faced the Elderbaoth at any point, right? If you somehow were lucky enough to, how powerful you are is really not that reliable in MCC.
No, it's
because
not.
it's like you were level 5 by the end, and yeah, you were really fucking powerful, especially with because you're adding your level to your mutation.
I ended up
traits.
accidentally becoming the generator because I had
light,
electrical
gas,
generation, light, gas, electrical,
ice,
and cryokinesis. So yeah,
basically ice generation.
Ice.
Yeah, and anyway, so what happens is with the Continuum Transfunctioner, it teleports everyone within a mile range up to the superterrestrial space where the actual God lives, who created the Elderbaoth to make the material realm. So he did it, and he did do it, but he was made by someone else to do it, and then was just incredibly flawed individual. So the guys ended up going to superterrestrial space and being granted power by God to regenerate the world quicker, because until all of this stuff had happened, she just assumed that, oh well, things are ticking over all right, I made it must be perfect, and this, that and the other. So we did a jump cut 10,000 years in the future with your character and Sean's character becoming, I forget what they call it, but from 2001 A Space Odyssey, it's sort of Star Baby or something like this.
Yeah,
and you basically became a seed of creation. That's the whole thing. But yeah,
I like the way it was described, because it just went, oh, you kind of just see this, and then played an excerpt from the film.
Yeah,
and
just
then,
an easier reference.
Yeah.
So I was gonna edit it because in the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's basically what I've just described as the very thing that happens. And he's warping through all these weird fucking domains and shit. And I was going to edit it so that the bit with where it shows his face looking at this. I was going to edit it so it was those bits of artwork of your characters just like shaking like that. So funny. Well, I never had fucking time, but yeah.
I'll say it was really good at the description as well in terms of how long it was taking. It said, well, you're basically staring at this happening for what could be between 3 seconds or 10,000 years, and you're just like, what?
And then I liked it that Sean heard that description. He's like, right, like before we go, like, can I say goodbye to my dad or something like this? And I was like, Sean, it's been 10,000 years, mate.
Yeah, it's already been.
Yeah, and so the end scene was that these guys see a glimpse of the future, having become that seed of creation, and then the world sort of rebuilding itself, and they see people like them, like a lot of Plantians, for long-winded reasons I won't get into, but a lot of manimals, mutants, things like this, but just living very ordinary lives, like going on the subway to work, like generally happier than a sort of apocalyptic greenhouse effect type world. But yeah. And yeah, so that's where we left it. And I think in the future I might end up doing a sequel to it. We're using the exact MCC rules but set in a modern environment, because then it could basically be X-Men and it would be fucking awesome.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was a really, really, really good, well-rounded ending. Like we spoke about it a few podcasts ago. It did actually naturally come to the conclusion because of the efficiency, the good rolls, and the luck that was on our side.
Well, yeah, because the only reason you ended up getting that hard drive, because the Phobocop was never meant to go over to your side.
No, he
realised because of that one random event that happened to him. He himself was a random encounter, right? That where you ended up was all through your choice. It was random whether or not he was going to turn up. He did. It was random that he got hit by her, and then he realised. And I was like, well, he's going to go and join them. But and then that essentially led to the campaign being able to be ended earlier. Yeah. You might not have got it, but I gently suggested a couple of things before the session anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I liked the ending. It was only an 11-episode campaign in the end, but I know that from experience, if you hang up a campaign halfway through, you just never go back to it, because you're going to go back to what is new and exciting, aren't you? And I thought, well, at the very least, we're going to wrap it up in some manner, even if it means I leave it on a cliffhanger that never gets resolved, but like some conclusion to something.
Yeah, and I think there was a really good conclusion, and the fact that you said potentially you could just pick it up from the new future version of it. That'd be great.
I mean, that would be hella fun.
Yeah,
I would love that, because I think it would be cool just like maybe creating characters that are like, maybe not mutations are not illegal per se as in X-Men, but like an elite fighting team, or maybe just a really mundane world. But you've got, let's say if your character, obviously he's like in the god realm now, but like, let's say if it was him with all of his generation skills and he's having to work like an office job or something.
Yeah, or
like instead of flicking paper triangles, you're generating snowballs in your hand and throwing them at the back of your colleagues' heads and things like this.
That'd be quite fun.
Or like electrical generation, be like, I gotta go home, my computer's fried, boss. Yeah, so that's MCC. I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. And I absolutely loved the game system. I don't think I've ever played anything else like it, especially because mutant characters, which is what everyone went for, they're very unstable, and that was part of the fun, because characters reached god levels of fucking power for a couple of sessions, then had it taken away, and then would get another power that would completely change everything. I mean, Sean's character, he wanted to be a tank, but he started out as not that at all, then became one, then died.
He ended up becoming almost all of the Fantastic Four.
At once, yeah,
because he had the stretch ability, like the hard skin, technically, because of his ability to get large and all that stuff. Then he had the invulnerability towards the end.
It's a very good point. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, so that was awesome. It's a shame that I mean, it's great that, for instance, my character survived and Sean's character survived so long, but it was talking about how the players and in that world gets to particular like godlike levels for a very short amount of time. It was like really early on when I had the flight ability. It was
that was like your bread and butter. That's what you did. You flew around and you chucked electricity, and then when that kind of like the I think that I've never played a campaign with more highs and lows than I have this one. There were points where where the players were like, "We're incredible, nothing can stop us," and then there were points where it was like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?"
You know, I actually feel like it is a really good system to show power gamers that they cannot power. It's a system that power gamers cannot power game in.
And because really, if you're doing it all randomly, I agree. Because even when there was somebody that could withstand a nuclear blast, as long as they got the ability of, just one light generation spell. Oh, that's another one you had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I'm in light as well.
That changed everything to the point where when James then got it as a mutation, where previously we would have been like light generate. Oh, for fuck! But James, we literally looked at each other and nodded because we were like, yeah, that's a good fucking, that's a good mutation.
Experience.
It's really fucking good. But then
I did use it in a stupid way.
I was just going to say that. Fuck.
The fucking what are they
Piranha bats.
Piranha bats. Fuck's sake.
James was using it. He's like,
I was so excited. I was like, light generation.
And then I was like, and there was 8 of them, and I was like, you blind 10 targets for 1d6 weeks or whatever. And I was just like, but these things don't have eyes because they're bats.
They're already blind, so you've done absolutely nothing to them.
Just to rub it in further as well.
They can see by sonar.
And
so they keep on screeching and they're coming at you.
And the funny thing as well is that even the artwork showed that they didn't have eyes, so I showed it just to rub it in. What was great was because they really looked like Golbat from Pokemon. Yeah. And there was a point when and then that fucking noise. But I was like, yeah, you hear this sound cutting through the night. I was on my phone, and fucking JT, one of the players, he goes, he's like, if you're going to put the Golbat sound on, and I was like, you fucking cunt. Because he just predicted it straight away. It was like, I can't even do it justice. I'll just insert the sound here. That's a bit better. Yeah, it's a bit better. Anyway, that was MCC. Fucking awesome system, and I think if you can't tell, we really like it, and definitely. DCC would be my preference because I like fantasy stuff, right? But MCC is a game that feels like no other. I mean, aside from Gamma World, obviously, I'm not a fucking idiot.
I feel like it actually allowed the fantasy element because of all the mutations, because they're all just like...
they're basically, they work the same as spells.
Yeah, exactly. So if we just thought of them like that, then we got a fantasy fix already.
Well, and functionally, the game is very similar.
Yeah.
To play, but it's just the setting is so fucking weird. But yeah, I do like it. It's very good. But next up, we're going to be playing. Well, and it's not really another post-apocalyptic thing because MCC is very much post. Yeah. So we're going to be going back to Savaged Fallout next week, and Sean's going to be running us through that.
Yeah, boy, it's what he's good at. Sean's done it very many times, and
So we know what to expect, but it's going to be a new campaign set in the California region, which Fallout 1, the video game, is set in. So that should be a lot of fun. What's cool is the guy who made Savaged Fallout, because there's several different versions. There's 2 called Savage Fallout, one called Savaged, and all of which are available for the Savage Worlds rule set, but for my money, which is none because it's free, Savaged is the best one because I think it closely emulates the video games without trying to do exactly what the video games do. Instead, it uses the Savage Worlds rule sets to give the same feel, so it's not just going, this was in the video game, so it's in here. It's like a lot better than that. But yeah, that's what we're going to play next, and I don't think it's available anywhere online anymore because the guy took it down from his blog, sadly. Well, it was a Google Drive link that now no longer works. So I assume he just maybe went on a deleting spree or just thought, well, this is inactive anymore. Luckily, Sean's got a copy on his hard drive, so I think I might upload it somewhere so people can get it because it's free. And that's technically legal.
Yeah, because it was free already.
And it's of an existing property. Yeah, exactly. I might, well, what... no, I can't do that. I was going to suggest putting on our drive-through RPG, but
for free.
Yeah, for free.
But with a massive disclaimer.
I'll just put a disclaimer at the beginning saying, if you did do this, just let me know if you want me to take it down. Maybe something like that. Because I really do think people should play this, because it's just the best. Definitely way better than that crappy Modifius one that is a mod for a skirmish game. Yeah, I already came up with her character, and I know we usually do them together, but I was watching The Curse. It's by the same people that did People Just Do Nothing. And there's a character in it who's a boxer with gigantism. And I've always thought that gigantism would be a cool hindrance to play, but they also, and this is probably deeply, deeply ableist, what I'm about to do, but they also have a very distinct voice, right? So, the character on this show, I just think is one of the coolest characters, so I was like, well, I need to be him. But, what's his name? Andre the Giant from Princess Bride, if you've ever seen that film. Jaws from James Bond, but I'll talk a bit like this. Well, that's how my character speaks. That's how, anyway, go and watch The Curse. That is a perfect impression. So I was just sort of like, well, he's a cool character. I'm basically going to do that in Fallout because he's amazing. So I'm going to create a boxer. What irked me a little bit was that one of the other player, Sean was like, JC, what character are you going to play? And he was like, a survivor, mate. I'm like, so you're playing generic Fallout character from the Fallout games then? But he's called himself I came up, Sean had a no pun name rule, right? Because we always try to do it. It's become a meme within our group that we always try to do it. And I said my character's going to be called Radiation. And he was like, no, vetoing it. And I'm like, no, because I got fish like a nuclear blast.
Yeah, because that's his stage name.
Yeah, his stage name, he's Raymond Briggs, but he's called Radiation because his fists hit like a nuclear blast. So, suck it, Sean. So it was allowed because it had a good justification.
Yeah.
The other player, his character's name's Dennis Dees, so that you can say suck on Dee's nuts. And I was like, yeah, but he has to be like a nut salesman or something for that. Or a repairman, like he has a lot of nuts and bolts.
Yeah, he needs to have a reason for it other than, it's like...
It's like, well, I once...
like Paul Maforeskin or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Gary McCallum, lovely bloke, but all of the female characters in his games are always called like Boobarella or something like this. And it's a bit like that, isn't it? Like Paul Maforeskin.
Yeah.
Like, if you were a circumcision doctor, maybe.
That would be fine.
That would be alright.
That would be okay.
But yeah, so I was a bit gutted about that. And I think Sean... Because he's probably... I've known you since we were babies.
Yeah.
Therefore you've known Sean. So when somebody has a shit idea, we could just say it to each other.
Yeah.
The trouble is that other player, we're close with him, but not quite at that level.
Fortunately, he didn't actually say that to me, though, did he? That D's not that name.
No, he just said, oh, he's Dennis Dees.
Yeah, but because we're doing session 0/1 next week, I'm just going to be like, nah, mate, that's shit.
Yeah, okay, good.
I'll just do it. I'll just be like, oh, it's a bit of a weak name, innit?
Yeah, yes.
Because you know, like the ones where, I mean, because when we started, I accidentally had some like fish-based names for no reason. It was just like, oh yeah.
It literally was for no reason.
Yeah, then there was a couple, and then like they were sort of allowed it. The guys allowed it, and it got to a point, and I was just like, it was so unnecessarily. I was just trying to find something that related to fish that I could name a character, but it had there's no substance.
Yeah,
to it at all.
exactly. Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, no, you got to stop that. And I was like, yeah, fine, yeah, cool. And so I did.
But your characters were good. It's just that it was such a pointless naming convention.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, well, I accidentally was related to fish, and then someone else was because it was. Yeah,
but I just think I think Dennis Dees is a really bad place to start, and I can't remember. He came with one another time that was similar to that, where it was like Paul Maforeskin levels, like it was like that, but I can't remember. But still, I'm excited to be playing more Fallout. Anyway,
yeah, definitely. But I was just thinking about in character names, just like some of the old ones that we had, like the original one that we played. We were playing Pathfinder 3.5, and my character was called Asaurus. That was quite a...
Yeah, but then it was one that was based on... It was because you had clearly seen a dinosaur and then you just took part of the name. But it did sound like, if you think about it, that does sound like an elven name.
Yeah.
If you understand... For example, in that fantasy universe, they probably don't know what dinosaurs even are. Yeah. So it's just a
so
sound.
It sounded, in terms of actual name rather than dinosaur.
I mean, I had a pretty bad one when I ran almost. I came dangerously close to running Call of Cthulhu for a bunch of people at work. But it's reasons like what I'm about to say that I ended up not doing it because one guy came with a character whose name was Blake. I don't even know how to say it without sounding like I'm saying the thing. Blake Knee, as in your knee, and then Gar, as in Gar. So it's Blake Negar, as in black. So Yeah. Well, that character that he actually made completely never ended up getting to any table.
Oh,
so
my lord.
You have me to thank for that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So, I've recently been playing, and this is. I just wanted to touch on this quickly. I don't want to go on for too long, but I wanted to just touch on a couple of games that, as a video games, that as a role player, I think come somewhat close to what it feels like to play a game at the table. And it's not none of those like D&D games or anything like this. But I've been playing. So I bought an emulation device recently. I bought it, and I've been playing Tokimeki Memorial. And there's another game that I really like called Princess Maker, and it's not what it sounds like, but I've been playing that game, and it reminded me of Princess Maker a lot. And I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to these games here, because Tokimeki Memorial is a life sim, and it's probably the first one of these ever where it's you're just playing a kid who goes to school, right? In Japan, clearly, because I'm a weeb. And the whole game consists of taking turns planning your week, and you sometimes get bonus activities depending on, say, for example, if it's White Day or Labor Day. It's not a thing in Japan, I don't think, but like things like this. But it's essentially planning to then ace exams, do really well at school, or make friends and get into relationships with high school girls, right? But bear in mind that it's not terrible to do because you're role playing as a high school boy, right? Yeah. And there's nothing sexy in it, so shut up, right? But I find these are like very close to what I feel like decent when you have a role playing game with a very, very good GM. What it's like, where it's like, you really get into the point where you're like, every decision, if you get into the character, where every decision that you're really, really thinking about it. And I finished my first playthrough of Tokimeki Memorial this afternoon, and it was so fucking depressingly close to what my actual school life was like, except for one major difference. Because what happened was, right, I joined the drama club really early on, right, as soon as I start school. So you play through 3 school years, and it takes about 3 hours. 4 hours total, right? And I joined the drama club, and the whole point of the game is that one of the ways that you can win, or one of the endings that you can get, is if you end up with a girlfriend by the end of those 3 years. You can also then, become famous, or get a job, or go to university, or whatever. There's loads of endings. But as soon as I joined the drama club, there's this one girl that comes up to me and is like, I really like you. I'm like, cool, right, that's the romance option I'm going to go for. All the other girls in the game that are like, well, up for it, and one bloke, I ignore them completely, right? So for the first 2 years, I'm absolutely smashing it, right? So I was doing well in all my exams because I planned it really well. My character's fitness was at 0, so again, pretty much like me. My one funny thing is that if you do science a lot, which was what I was doing, your looks score actively goes down. So it's like being a nerd actively makes you uglier, but I guess it means it makes you less attractive to people.
Yeah, I
don't know, but this girl didn't care, right? So I was acing it. I was doing all my exams. Get to the end of year 2, right? And my best mate Yoshio, he gives me a call up, and he's like, by the way, some nasty rumours are going around school. And I'm like, where the fuck has this come from? And then suddenly I look at the ratings of all the people I've met, and they all hate me because I've been ignoring them by trying to get really good grades. Then, at a certain point, I called my girlfriend up and was like, okay, so do you want to go to the cinema? She's like, no, slams the phone down. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where has this come from? And then I'm like, so I have a look. It turns out that if you don't maintain a decent relationship with everyone you meet in the game, they end up bad-mouthing you to your girlfriend. She dumps you. So the very last thing that happened in the game was that because I spent most of my time at drama school and drama club and like doing all of these things like science and literature and trying to be a fucking Chad in that regard, but my fitness was an all-time low. There's this big party right at the end of the game, right, where it happens at Christmas. I go up to the fucking place, and I walk up to the thing, and the guy's like, sorry, mate, you don't look nearly cool enough to come to this party. So the woman who I thought was my girlfriend, who's dumped me, and her score has gone right down to the bottom, is in this party. I spent Christmas alone, and then it says, but you became a famous stage actor. But the very last thing I see is that my character is sitting on his own, looking at a tiny Christmas tree, crying. And I was just like, Wow, I mean it's so close to what actual school life is like, but it ended up with me alone wondering about all the hot bitches at the party, and then just crying on my own, and I was just like, this is so depressing. But I got into it to such a degree where I was just like, I think also because of what's been going on, I needed something to absorb myself into. But it's so immersive because every tiny decision that you make affects all the other things, and I ended up like not knowing that how hard the game is, to the point where I have to maintain relationships with like 18 people, and you only get in the game one phone call a week with which to ask. You can either ask your mate how you're doing with everyone, or you can ask somebody out on a date, or you can use that day to do something productive, right? So it's like the game is so hard.
That sounds like a lot of juggling.
It's like one of the...
Like, you can't even cycle it, I don't think.
The amount of numbers that are going on and stats would give any D&D player a headache, basically. And also the actual level to which you need to think about all of your decisions. It came really close to playing a tabletop RPG. If you can stomach the subject matter, I think Tokimeki Memorial is really worth playing. And, of course, there's another game, Princess Maker 2, which is not what it sounds like. It's a comedy game taking the piss out of those types of games. Right. And that one is insane, and also has dungeon crawls in it. And
actual dungeon crawls?
Yeah. So there's a version of Princess Maker 2 called Princess Maker 2 Refine. The whole plot of it is that you aided a legendary knight in defeating the devil himself. So an angel gifts you with this girl that now has to live with you, and you have to raise her and you have to care for her. So it's sort of a joke on that whole concept. It's like, oh, fucking hell, and she's really grumpy, really horrible, demands money all the time, and your goal is to make her into something worthy, hence the name. And one of those things that you can do is become a knight. So you can go out and do dungeon crawls, you can join fencing contests, whatever. I mean, it's pretty stupid, but just in terms of the similar experience where it's like, okay, well, this is like, if you want to do anything worthwhile, you really have to think about it. And I think that, I don't know, Tokimeki Memorial is really fun, but the subject matter will put a lot of people off because it's just about going to school and doing shit, and it's a life sim. But I just think it feels a lot like playing an RPG. That's all I want to say.
It's quite good as well that it's basically a session long. So
I think it's because it's so easy to fuck up. If it was anything longer, like I was literally, when the third school year started, I was like, this game is so easy, I'm fucking acing it. And then suddenly the rumours spread and my whole life fell apart, and I was just like, well, this is cool. It's like I can't even manage that virtual life on top of my own. It's like, oh God. Anyway, that is it for what we've been saying. Shall we do the main subject? The main subject is by.
By who?
It's by me, innit?
Oh, and me.
Well, I wrote these 3 lines of notes here, so... No, I'll credit you. I'll credit you as well.
Oh, cheers.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject.
Tokyo.
Main. Subject.
Right, so we're going to go into some heavy topics here. I'm not going to try and dwell too much on it or sound like I'm moaning or anything like this. And we will go back to being silly in a minute, right? Because we're doing electro letters, and we're going to do your RPG hot takes and also some questions about anime, which I know a lot of you will hate. So, yeah, we're going to stop the podcast for a bit. And I don't owe you an explanation.
So, electro letters.
Yeah, here's the dizzle. So, a lot of people a lot of people listening may or may not know that my wife has cystic fibrosis. And what's the one thing that everyone says about cystic fibrosis recently? It's like, oh, have you taken that new wonder drug that solves it and cures you and changes your life?
This is the thing that's kind of fucked me off as well, because I've watched the season 10 of Married at First Sight Australia, and there's someone with CF on it who literally keeps explaining that it's a miracle drug. Yes, it does allow for miracles to happen, and it is fantastic.
But I think
put it in the wrong light, in my opinion.
But I think what it was that on Married at First Sight Australia, we've both been watching it.
Yep.
Her
boyfriends and stuff as well were much
different to what my wife's are.
Yeah.
But she also, I think, was trying to, because he was worried that she would die soon after them getting married, right? And I think that she was upselling how good the drug was. So it's called Trikafta in America, Kaftrio in England. And it is very good. And to give an example, my wife's lung function was 42%. So it means that would be like her
good
only...
day, that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it ended up with, when she took it, going up to, on a good day, like 90, right?
Yeah.
So, but the trouble is, while it doesn't cure anything, she still has to live with it day by day, and had a lot of really tough, annoying times.
Isn't its main purpose, that drug, to get rid of the mucus sticking around the body?
It's a lot of things. A lot of things. But, I mean, a good example is, not all people with CF, but when some people took it, they ended up having a massive purge of all of the mucus in the lungs and all of that, and it just came out at once, and all this black stuff and all of this. So it did happen for some people, and with Millie, it has changed her life, right? Definitely, there's no two ways about it.
Well, you had Jessie.
Exactly, and there literally was an influx of people with CF having children, because before, Millie might not probably wouldn't have survived the childbirth, right? Or at least she was strongly advised against doing it by lots of doctors,
and it was probably the contributing factor as to how she actually got pregnant as well.
Oh yeah, that and my powerful seed. But so, and the reason I'm saying this, and I know that Millie would want me to say this, right? You know that too. She likes people to know the details of things and know the real actual situation. So she did get that drug, and it was life changing. It did make a big difference, but she was still on the highest type of disability that you get in this country, because of the way disabilities are graded, right? She also had a fungal infection, which is something that drug did not take away. So in one of her lungs, and that was causing her lungs frequently to bleed, right? And of course, what comes with that is that you have quite a significant risk of drowning, things like this. And the way that they operate on it is they do an embolization, right? So she's had so many of those, to the point where, so what they do is they then, with the lung that has the fungal infection, they'll go in and they'll burn off blood vessels to stop them from bleeding. Then the trouble is, she'd had so many now that if she had one more of those embolizations, then it would mean that the lung would just be completely starved of blood, right? So it would just, so we were at the point now where if she had another lung bleed, that would mean that she would just die. Simple as that. And the trouble is that previously, what had set off her lungs bleeding is her doing any strenuous activity, but this time, the last two, she was simply just sitting on the couch watching TV. So it really was like an actual significant risk, and they ended up putting her on the urgent national transplant list for a double lung transplant. She's had it, but the unfortunate thing, there were a lot of complications during surgery, and I won't bore with the details because they really are quite extensive. But the long and short of it is that even if she had just got the surgery and it went fine, we're talking about minimum 4 months recovery, and during that, there's no way I'm going to be able to do the podcast. Now, with the complications in addition to this, it turns out there's other stuff she's going to have to recover from, although she's not been properly conscious for about a week. So I don't know if she'd want me to share those extra details, but let's just say it's going to be a long process. And I'm estimating 6 months minimum,
it's a long
probably
road to
a year.
Recovery.
Exactly.
And the time is better spent,
well, I mean, it's
directed attention as well.
Exactly. I know I'm just not going to have time to do this. So that's that's the end of it. And a lot of her time is going to be spent in hospital during that time. But it's still, I've been there every day that I possibly can. And, and I've got Jessie as well. So it's just, it's being, at the moment, just me and Jessie, it's easier. I could, if I really tried on the days where I was at home, maybe produce one of these episodes, right? Yeah. But it's just not worth the fucking I don't want to call it hassle because people like the show, but do you know what I mean?
No,
it's just not worth trying to fit it in amongst everything else.
It's a bit too...
If I did it, I'd wear myself out, and I know that.
You get, you're already kind of burning the candle at both ends, and that will just
Well, us
more.
recording now is a bit of a stretch.
yeah.
So, we just happened to both be available. So we were like, well, let's put something out. We'll structure it like a normal episode and this and the other. Right, that's the end of that part, right? What does it mean for the show and the Patreon? I want to come back and do the podcast, right? And if we get the chance and I have the inspiration for a decent episode, we'll put something out.
I was hoping you'd say that, because obviously the hobby is a deep passion for all of us involved.
We're gonna continue playing, where possible.
Yeah.
And for now, every session has been at mine because I've got the baby and then you guys just come up here. So we're gonna keep that going somehow. But yeah, just the podcast. I wanna keep it going somehow. But I reckon the updates. I'm not gonna promise anything.
Yeah, if any updates, basically, if we find inspiration and a big enough reason to put an episode out, if we decide that we want to do a bonus for just because we've got time to do it and we feel like it's easy for fluidity, and also if there's no edit, you just bung it out, then we definitely will do it. But the point is, Harrison's saying that we or he rather, because he pretty much writes every single one, it's just not going to dedicate the same amount of time because he can't as he had before. So yeah,
I mean that's where it's at. The only thing is that the one thing, like, I'm going to keep the Patreon up, right? And it's not because I need financial or want to do e-begging, right? I'm 100% knowing that that's going to just filter out and probably go down to nothing. The reason it's going to remain up is because all the money, all of it. So I'm just going to hang on to it and use it to continue paying hosting fees so that this podcast remains up and people can get it on iTunes. In addition to that, if anyone has any reliable ways for me to switch over the RSS feed on Apple Podcast Connect or anything like this, if anyone can offer any help to host it for free in a decent way, get in touch at 3trpgpod at gmail.com.
Yeah.
The Patreon's going to stay up. It's literally just so that the podcast stays up. If it eventually filters out, which it probably will do and go to nothing, we'll carry on doing it every so often, and the episodes will remain up on YouTube. So that's where we're at. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think it's like I don't want to be like, oh, I need sympathy and things like this, but I do think that we hopefully have some fans out there that will miss the show while we're gone, right? And I don't want to just leave it with me being like, oh, there's no explanation, my wife still see you later. I think Millie would want people to know what's going on, right?
Well, you need to take a step back. You need to give yourself some brain space, because even though it's a hobby, there's an awful lot of effort that goes into. I've tried.
Well, this is why I had to stop GMing for a bit and let Sean take over, because I was just like, as much as I've still got the energy and I want a game and I want to hang out with you guys, because that at the moment is pretty much my only comfort, where it's like everything's super busy. Like, obviously I love spending time with my son, that's a given, but the point is, it's like the me time, that's when we're gaming together, right? And I want to carry on doing that, but it's just like I don't have the brain space to be able to GM at the moment. I mean, usually, if I can't prepare a game, and I've even said this when we're talking about how to prep for a game, I'll write down 5 notes on a bit of paper. I haven't even had that amount of time. So it's just like,
even those 5 bits of, you still need to be tinkering away. Your brain still needs to be thinking about that
instead of what's going on.
Yeah, in that capacity. So there is, you need to free that up so that you can, you can kind of emotionally re-strengthen yourself and, like, get yourself to a.
And I think if I'm coming back next week as a player, that's where I can just turn up and have fun, right? I've got a pretty.
Not that you didn't have fun as a GM.
Oh, I did, but you know what I mean. There is a slight. I don't put huge pressure on myself, but like there is a bit of pressure that comes with it.
Yeah.
And with being a player, I've got a really, really amazing, well-written character because I stole it from somebody who can already write good characters. So that should be easy for me.
I do like. It's stupid because I've ran one campaign and maybe 2 one-shots or something, but even from that, I know how much effort goes into GMing, and I'll say, week in, week out, me turning up, being able to contribute to a really awesome story with my mates is fucking great. So
yeah, we need it, and yes, and you know, I think Millie's always been super encouraging about all of my hobbies anyway, even the ones that are fleeting that I do for like a minute and then stop, which is often. But yeah, with the podcast, I do want to say that, like, and I really do have trouble being sincere about a lot of things, but I do want to say that it's been an absolute honour to do it as we have been. And you know, James, I've been enjoying podcasts since like 2004, 2005, when basically the only ones that were available were awful, and I've always loved the format. And you know, when I was a kid, used to record quote unquote radio shows on my Talkboy by myself with my toys. I mean, that's how few friends I had.
actually, to be fair, me and Chris used to do a radio station together as well.
But think about that, right? The fact that, you know, and to have a following like we do, you know, I think, from a significant number of people, I think has been really, really amazing, and I've absolutely loved it.
Well, the thing is, I'll hold my hands up and say that I've never...
You've leached off it.
No,
you jumped
that's
on...
it, mate. I'm up there with the big wigs, and I'm not taking you with me. No, it's in terms of like the Discord, I'm really bad at keeping up to date with that.
I was until I found out it existed. That was the big turning point for me.
And it's I think it's amazing because there's such a good community on there of
Trouble is,
some weird fuckers that seem to like chatting shit on there.
I mean, I did have to recently tell someone off for posting porn, but you know, to be expected. It's a safe space. We don't
discriminate all the time, just sometimes.
We only discriminate. Look, there's only a few races we won't accept in there, but mostly we're all right, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, it's been really, really fun. If the podcast will continue, but I don't know when we're going to get back to it. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that because a lot of the listeners on the Discord, so that's why we needed to put this out. But
yeah,
I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyway. So, the podcast is going away, probably seen a bit, but let's go back to being very stupid and do some electro letters.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter.
So, in the last episode, we asked for your RPG hot takes.
I know, you just took the piss.
Who did?
Yeah, all of them.
Well, I mean, I think they are the definition of hot takes, though, right? Because it's like a controversial opinion you have. And maybe we'll share some of ours in a bit, but I think a lot of them align with these ones. But yeah, some of them are taking the big piss.
Go on.
So first one comes in from No Clever Name Sid. He says, hot takes, gaming is awesome and everyone should be invited. And I included that one because I think that it's funny that is a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
Because nerds are so exclusionary all the time. Like, no, you're too stupid. It's like,
no, you don't get it. It's new, ruin our dynamic. You're not in the inner circle.
You don't understand the fantasy genre. It's like, I don't know. I think
you're not going to put on a voice and try. I'm not going to enjoy you there at the table.
Exactly. Right. I think the type of session and the type of game, there's an RPG out there for everyone. Yeah. But not everyone wants to put on a voice. Not everyone wants to properly get into character. They just might want to play it like they're playing Skyrim and just fight shit, right? It all depends. So, yes, I agree. Everyone should be invited, but I do think there's a right game for the right people. There was a time when I was going to play Fiasco with Millie's family, for example, because they probably like that.
Yeah.
Because it's an improv game.
Nice.
Should not drink beer.
Should.
He also says, if you don't like gaming, I don't care. Just shut up and do what you like and stop complaining about what I like to do. Right on, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what my defence to this is that because... And it's stupid. I'm not saying that gamers are a minority, right? Because we're really not. But also, it's just not it's not a sad position to be in. No. You know, when people talk about their lives where they're nerds and they're just like, no one ever understood me. When I was growing up, I liked things like Star Wars, the most popular sci-fi franchise in the world. Yeah, it was hard for me. It's like no. But yes, I do agree. But my defence for this, when people complain about what I do and say it's nerdy, I just go, I fucking love it. And it's just like, well, what can you say to that? Yeah. If you go, yeah, no, I'm a bit of a nerd. It's just like, no, I fucking love it. And then people are just like, well, no, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
it disarms people.
So I brought it up with like people at work, and it's like, there was this like shitty icebreaker kind of thing that happened. I was just like, Nah, fuck it. This always gets people. There's these people that I like literally never speak to, that I've been forced into like a meeting and like sharing stuff with, or like a workshop or a training session. And they go, oh yeah, tell us a random fact about you. And it's like, oh yeah, every single week, almost without fail, I play. Essentially, I always say the easiest
D&D.
D&D. I've played Dungeons and Dragons.
I still say it. It's just easier. Everyone knows what it is. But yes, I like to think, to look at, that I don't look like I'm a nerd, right?
Oh mate, you look hella nerd. I mean, look at me though. I'm full nerd.
No, but I don't think you look like it when you do that face you do.
Sorry, this is really.
But
bad
no, I
podcasting.
don't. But then I accidentally shaved a big chunk of my beard off today, and so I had to shave the whole beard
You
off.
confused
And
me.
I look like a slug man. I didn't even realise until.
Fortunately, the microphone is in front of Harrison's mouth at the minute. But when I
Move out the way.
when I came in, I looked at him and I was just like, "Your face."
Well, because especially
Your face
my new glasses as well, I think I look like there's a YouTuber called Tim Rogers. Just look him up, and I think I look like him. And I've always thought that he looks like a man that was born by being squeezed out of a tube of toothpaste. And I realise how out of shape I've become in the last 10 years I've been married. Fucking yeah. Horrible.
No, you look great.
But I don't think you could identify you. But I think when we're with the other two people of our group,
Oh,
definitely yes.
Because we sat with each other.
Because no offense to Buscus if you're listening, but he actually looks like a fantasy creature.
he's the perfect epitome of what you'd expect a nerd to look like.
A leather jacket with a Warhammer symbol on the back of it.
A beer belly,
Triforce
balding
hat.
head,
He always wears a Triforce hat.
big glasses. Well, not big, but
about
glasses.
3 feet tall.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sean, who has got so many key rings on his bag that
He sounds like he's fucking
he's
a
stealth
travel salesman.
Let me
or
just say
something.
this, James, if I may. His stealth score would be quite low. Right.
That was good though.
Sid carries on. Oh, Jesus Christ, Sid.
for
Calm
fuck's
down, mate. You've got so many on here. It's like 5. He says, I'll just skip to the last one. He says, if you don't want to argue, then don't say controversial things on the internet. Hold on a minute. You just said gaming's for everyone. You fucking
Oi.
edgy boy.
Edgy boy.
Racism, sexism, and bigotry in general is a problem in the gaming community. Yes, it is. And I do most of it. But the solution isn't just to rename/change things. The solution is to point out the racists, sexists, and bigots and tell them why it's a problem.
That's what we do.
That's sort of been our little MO here, really. Because
Yeah,
I think that we are very up for non-PC jokes.
Yeah, we're up for non-PC
but there's no
jokes.
hate. There's no hate in this podcast.
There's not. Well,
Actually,
there's a lot.
I'm looking at you, Bobby Evans. No, there is a little bit of hate, but mainly towards people I don't like very much.
Yeah, pretty much. But I feel like we've liked doing a weird and wonderful and a wacky, but we have although we've always strictly been like non-political and that kind of stance of it.
But I think we've always pointed out.
Yeah.
Here's this thing.
It's wrong.
Gross, and we're gonna. If you want to know everything about a game that is turbo offensive, we've done the deep dive, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing that we did. So yeah, I agree. But yeah, I do think the renaming thing definitely not the way to go.
No.
There are lots of people out there, he continues, that are also want to game. Then the things left that do have racist, sexist, and bigoted elements can be addressed by the people who actually want to make it better. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I don't think that's an edgy boy opinion, though, Sid. I think that's an opinion most normal people share.
Yeah.
The sad fact is that I do think. Let's say, for example, fucking racial holy war is probably the worst offender. Or there was that one that fucking Gary Gygax's son got written by another bloke, and he just put, was it one of the alien races that you can be in this game was the N-word, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, man. Nobody's going to buy that, though, are they? I mean, okay, there's a couple of people out there that are buying, I don't know, Lamentations of the Flame Princess to prove some point that they're the same right-wing views as James Raggy, but it's like, there's most of these things are outliers that nobody's buying. I think, I hope, probably. I can't confirm it at all, and it's probably not true. All right, next one comes in from the Huss Man. He says, "Here's a couple. If you shy away from you meet in it,
Tavern.
Yes, because it's overdone, then you're not trying hard enough." And this is a point we made on the last one.
True.
Because somebody said that you meet in an inn is too common. and don't do it. And if you do it, you're out of ideas. But I think we said this last episode, but it was like,
It's a
I think
perfect
making
trope.
twists on that.
Yeah.
And if you're clever enough to come up with an interesting twist that makes everyone laugh, or that makes everyone go, "Oh, cool twist," it's like that. I think is more creative than going, right, I'm going to go for the most wacky thing possible. But rather than going, oh, I like this trope, here's how I'm going to subvert it or do something interesting with it. I think that's way better than going, you meet on a plane.
Yeah. Be like, oh, you meet in a bunker in the middle of a war. That's just pretty
That's
much.
actually quite a cool way to start a campaign. But
Then you have to get involved.
but actually, it's proving that we just come up with two cool ideas. Yours is a lot better than mine. But yeah, it's easy to do the outside of the box, using the cliche in an interesting way. That's creative, right?
Oh, it is, because you have so much to play with. You really have so much to play with. That's why it exists. It's the best way, one of the best ways to introduce characters to each other, to break the ice, particularly in one-shot scenarios.
Well, it's what
or new people.
And I know the opinions are divided on him, but it's what Tarantino does in his movies. He puts his characters in familiar situations, so that then you. Like,
Well, you get to concentrate on the story and the developments that are happening, not like, oh, where are they sat? Oh, it's fucking Jupiter.
Well, and also in real life, you and I get to know people in those situations.
Yeah.
So you can imagine getting to know a character when they're in those realistic situations. It doesn't have to be a tavern, but like, I don't know, like two guys talking in their car, you know, or in the case of Reservoir Dogs, they're in a diner. Do you know what I mean?
Or waiting at a bus stop or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's fine. He says, what a game company does with its intellectual property has zero impact on the game you play around the table, so stop complaining about it. Because your complaining is not helping. Besides, you've bought the books, the game is now yours, you do whatever the hell you want with it. And
Yeah.
I agree. Because I find it weird. I find it really weird being angry at 6th edition, right? Because who cares? You just don't play it. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you at all. You might lament about the fact that, oh, the gaming industry is going in a direction I don't like. But you
Don't follow it then.
Don't follow it. You've got your old ones. I mean, I haven't played video games used to be my thing, right? Before RPGs, pretty much. I haven't played a new video game in ages. New Resident Evil 4 came out. I played the old one.
Yeah,
Because it just doesn't interest me. I don't give a fuck. But the fact that you're going, oh, video games aren't good anymore. I bet there's a lot of old ones you haven't played that are fucking amazing. I just went on for like an hour about how I played a bloody SNES RPG from 1993. So, you know, it doesn't matter, man. The fact is, I could get a copy of Savage Worlds and play that forever and be happy, right?
Yeah.
New stuff comes out, or I learn about old stuff that I want to buy. But why do you have to be tied to recent things? I've never understood that. It's like when people say, "Oh, films are shit nowadays." Have you watched 2001: A Space Odyssey? If the answer's no, watch that. It's a good film.
Yeah,
there's probably loads like that that people haven't seen. Yeah, I don't know. It's dumb, isn't it?
It is.
But then I think from your perspective, you've never really given a shit about the industry. You just like the games and the playing of those games.
I like the games, cool. Playing the games, and everything that kind of I've been blessed for this group, because everything we've kind of done has been great. There's only been a but
outside of it doesn't interest you, and as a result, it's never affected you. Yeah. If you just didn't take an interest in 6th edition because you don't like it, easy,
done.
Don't matter anymore. The Hussman continues. He says, like it or not, new players are the lifeblood of the hobby. Of the hobby. If you care about the bigger picture, let them in. You don't have to play with them, but you damn well better accept their presence. Yes, agree.
Oh, that is true. But like we touched upon earlier, if it depends where, because I'm one of those nerds, and well, we all are, where there's, you know, if someone wanted to join our group, like we need to vet them, because this is a weekly thing.
It's a weekly thing that has become part of our lives, and it's
literally our inner circle. We play.
But then I don't think the fact that we vet players. In fact, I don't. You guys do, but I don't think I don't think the fact that the group as a whole vets players is not accepting new people into the hobby.
No, it's the inner circle. It's not the hobby.
It's our friend group
Yeah.
and our game.
Yeah.
And I think, like, because it often, and it has happened a lot, to be fair, is that when somebody has asked me, can I be in your game? My answer is always yes. And then I ask the group and they go no. And that's usually, but I'm just like, I'm just happy to have anyone. But then now I realise how much of a fucking idiot I was, because the last one, I was like, yeah, I reckon she can join. She was fucking insane. And I'm so glad, because I don't know this person at all. I'll get to know them by inviting them to our weekly group that we basically use as therapy.
That's right. Yeah. Coming to my house, and I don't know you.
Well, look, thank God I passed it by you guys, because that could have been really horrible. Because she was also having sex with one of the other players at the time.
But it's really manipulative and a cunt.
And racist, it turns out.
Oh, yeah.
But I had no idea at the time. I only met her once. Yeah. Sorry about that. Pistachio Cultist of Sean, he says, RPG hot take. If you play any other race than Tiefling, this is one of your piss take ones. If you play any other race other than Tiefling, you're in fact a racist fascist. Well, you're actually the only one that has, out of our group, that has ever played a Tiefling. Xanthar, or whatever his name was. The one that spoke. And his laugh was like, do you remember?
Wait, I can't remember his name. But yes, I did.
Zergoth.
Yeah, Zergoth.
Yeah, and so then I'm a racist fascist.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go get racial holy war, you fucking bigot.
Get it? I wrote it, mate. Bargle the Infamous, he says, fantasy RPGs are running out of steam because players are becoming increasingly unable to accept or comprehend the concept of a world that is fundamentally unlike their present day. Every culture must be accepting of differences, staffed with welcoming good guy organisations for the adventurers to interact with, and lack any facets which are unpalatable to modern sensibilities. Slavery, caste discrimination, sex discrimination, religious intolerance, but which the people in the fantasy society accept as normal. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I don't know. I definitely think that D&D has become deeply sanitised in that regard, to where the medieval and mythical inspirations that it had have been stripped out to the point of I don't know, something as basic as elves and dwarves hate each other, or a woman being a knight not being a common thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually think those are kind of, when you're GMing that type of thing, right? I'm in agreement with what he's saying, right? But I think when you're GMing that type of thing, I'll often put shit like that in there if it's relevant, like especially when you're playing Solomon Kane, right?
Yeah.
There was racism in that game, not because I'm like lol racism, but because it was what things were like.
Yeah,
it's
like bringing attention to the time period that it's set in, or at least the understanding of the time or the setting, or how things were in the medieval ages, or whatever it is that you decide to plot the fantasy.
It's just relevant because it's like a roadblock in your journey, right? I mean, because there was a player playing a black character, right? And he's suddenly rolling through England in the 17th century, right? That's going to be a bit weird. But here's the thing. When you are confronted with those situations, rather than everyone being all nicey and accepting, it's a opportunity for that character to be a badass and to break out of that in some fundamental way. Or it's an opportunity for roleplay, isn't it? I mean, I wonder if, and this is probably a stupid thing for me to say, but I wonder if there's a black person at the table that I would still do that. I don't know. I probably would, actually. But here's the point. I do completely agree, and I think that, I don't know, if you remember, there was like a lot of these attempts to then sanitize it end up being patronizing to people that don't necessarily understand the thing they're talking about. For example, in Crystal Heart, when it was like the one black race, they were saying one of the things they put about them was that they love trends. And it's like, that's definitely racist, isn't it? Because it's like saying, oh, black people always want the latest thing, don't they? And it's like, that's definitely out of order. But if you'd have just like set it in a medieval, a realistic medieval way, and you'd have made it more realistic, or just not written that race in because you don't fucking understand anything, I don't know. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame that people feel this need to sanitize everything. I mean, if you want to create your own unique setting where everyone gets along,
I feel like it makes it a little bit more difficult because obviously all we are realistically do in the fantasy settings is you just twist around history, and then it's everything is based on something else. So you've got to base it off of actual events or
I think
understanding of cultures in general.
D&D is based on real myths and legends, which had a point and a meaning at one point.
Yeah,
Do you know
because
what I mean?
they were meant to be, they're meant to have their own story and their own understanding as to, why is this race like that? The fact that there are, for instance, the elves and dwarves not liking each other, that's like an innate thing that everyone knows, and therefore it's easy to roleplay, and it should be easy to play out if you're in a situation.
But also, it's funny because, the prime example is Lord of the Rings, right?
Yep.
And the bit they focus on is not the hate part; it's that two of them became friends despite all that.
Yep.
Isn't that part of the point of having that type of stuff in your game? I don't know, and I think that a big part of those types of narratives is to create situations like that. But if I could recommend, I think if you divorce your setting enough from the original material to the point where it's something completely original, I think it's fine. If you're like, oh, this is like a Star Trek type utopia where all the races get along, they love each other, that's all it, except for Klingons and all the other ones they meet along the way. But all the ones on Earth or whatever, the Federation, they get on, right? So it's like, a good example is the Adventure Zone, the first arc of their campaign they did in their podcast, because that is a very woke thing, but they did do it in a way that was tasteful, and the podcast didn't suffer from it because it was in no way meant to be like a medieval game. It just it featured space, Mad Max type racing. It was like, this is our setting that we've come up with, and there you go. But if you're running D&D and you're just going, yeah, but like now in the new. In fact, I'm doing the very thing I complained about before. I don't care about sixth edition. I don't. But now it's racist to assume that certain races have certain traits, right? So saying dwarves are strong, that's bang out of order. So now all you do is you pick dwarf as your background, but you pick from different things to make your racial bonuses. So if you want to be an incredibly tall, handsome gnome, you can be that. It's like, on the one hand, I quite like that idea, but that's sort of why I don't care about 6th edition, because I'm like, well, why the fuck even have races anyway? Just everyone can just be an amorphous blob swinging a sword around. Oh god, this has got me really ranty, this one.
Good question then.
Judge Trev, he says, Gary Gygax was an insurance salesman turned carnival barker after fleecing his friend Dave of a few good ideas. Correct. Listen to the sad history of Dave Arneson, one episode that we did, if you want to learn all about that. I mean, yeah, really, seriously. And Dave Arneson was such a nice guy. He says that he misses that carnival barker aspect in TTRPG, though. I prefer it to virtue pandering to sell games. And I think we've gone on about that enough. He also says, a D20 is great, but 20 Ginny Ds, that's a good time.
Oi!
You're not wrong, mate.
You're not wrong. I mean, done it.
She's not my type of content, but in another fashion, she is my type of content. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
By that. But what we've done there is sexist.
It is.
No, it isn't. Actually, no. Is it sexist to talk about a woman like this?
Is it sexy? Is it sexy?
I think it's sexy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she knows it.
She does, though.
I mean, yeah,
That's part of the appeal of the channel, definitely. But in case that's sexist, what I said, it isn't. Mimir says, one of the best ways to become a better GM is to stop playing video games and start reading books.
Nah.
No, I don't know. Video games could be a good inspiration. It's just mechanically don't try to emulate what they do in the video game. That's it. That's all I'd say. Because if you then, I don't know, like for example, just pick a video game at random, right?
Bayonetta 3.
So if you were taking Bayonetta 3, right? So in Bayonetta, one of the big things is being scored on every map that you complete on it, right? If you put that into an RPG, it's stupid. That mechanic is redundant. But if you emulate the feel of Bayonetta in D&D and put a rule in for climax attacks, that would be fucking amazing.
That would be jokes.
Okay, if you do enough damage in a single turn, you can then
strip off, get naked, and fuck them in the
use
head
your hair, which
with
is also your clothes, to put someone in a guillotine and spank them before killing them.
Yeah.
So you're not going, okay, climax attacks work the exact same way. You need to build a meter by doing combos. You just try and emulate the feel by using the existing mechanics. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, video games can it absolutely inspire RPGs. I guess that's why it's a hot take, really.
Yeah, but I do get the angle though, because obviously with books there's a description that's completely left out of video games.
And also,
because they don't need to describe the scenes or settings or what you're meant to be imagining.
No, you just
in your
look
head.
straight at it.
Yeah,
I do think you can learn a lot more from books for RPGs, but saying to stop using video games as an inspiration, I mean, because a lot of them have very good stories, but I don't think an RPG about being a blue hedgehog and running to the right would be very fun. But say something inspired by The Last of Us or something. I've seen a lot of people doing that in RPGs, and that was a video game. Or I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like I think they can be good inspiration, but I think a lot of GMs try to take it mechanically, and the worst sessions I've ever played have been the Batman campaign we played. Was literally just levels taken from the Batman thing. But Fallout, so video game inspired, but the way Savaged Fallout is done is it's emulated the feel of it using the mechanics of Savage Worlds, not the mechanics of the game then inserted whole hog into Savage Worlds. Yeah, but yeah, I do think reading more books is a very good way to learn descriptions and also plots. And most of my campaigns have been based on whatever book I happen to be currently reading. So I don't know, I in agreement with that part. But yeah, video games can be a good inspiration, I think. I mean, we were once really in danger of somebody running Death Road to Canada, Savage Death Road to Canada, and his point was that he was going to say, because in Death Road to Canada, it's a zombie game where you're trying to get to Canada, right, to escape an apocalypse. But one of the big things that video game does is that every time you get to sort of junctions where you have to make a choice, and it'll often be like, what is it? It'll be like, oh, there's bandits, and they say, move, no, give us all this shit you've got. Do you fight them, or do you try and plow through, right? Whereas in an RPG, it could be anything. But this guy was saying, oh yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the choices into the game. Do you want to fight them or ram through? It's like, how about find a different route? How about we try to notice them before they notice us and drive around?
I wouldn't have gone there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, yeah, it's kind of dumb. Right, we are getting long on time here, so we'll go on to some real questions. Well, those were real questions. Thank you very much for sending them in. CJ, he says, because Sean is a fucking idiot, and recently, right, obviously everything has been going on with my wife, right?
Yeah.
You two knew that we're not doing the podcast, right?
Yeah,
Sean then went onto the Discord on the day we were supposed to be recording. I was sitting there, right, the day we were supposed to be recording. I was literally getting ready to sleep out the hospital in a chair, and I see this fucking Sean sent into Discord a message saying, "Hi guys, we're recording in a couple of hours. Got any questions?" And
you're recording this weekend.
The first one that came in was one of the listeners saying, "Why the fuck are you asking for questions?" Because I'd already put out a message on the Discord saying we're not recording for a long time, and he's like, "It was so stupid." So CJ correctly, because Sean is a weeb even bigger than I. He said, for anime questions, I assume, with the rise of the isekai as a genre, do you feel it hurts the chances of a new fantasy-based goblin story like Goblin Slayer or Record of Lodoss War getting made?
I tell you what, actually, I had spoke about that exact genre the other day when we left Harrison's from the MCC session, because that is precisely JT's favoured genre. He's actually, because
one of our players.
Yeah, you pointed it out to him, and he's like, yeah, that's actually one of my favourite genre, because I was talking about how anime, fantasy animes are really fucking good. But we said that he said that isekai for him is taking over.
See, the weird thing, so isekai, for those that don't know, is specifically it's fantasy anime, but the main protagonist is from our world and he gets transported in, right? So, but I did really enjoy, you know more about anime than I do, but I did very much enjoy RE0, and that was the one that really kicked off the popularity for the genre.
I will say that there's a new series of that coming out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy Konosuba as well. But out of all of them, if we were just saying that isekai is not a genre, right? And you were saying what are the best fantasy animes? Record of Lodoss War, easy, number 1, right? Or Goblin Slayer.
Goblin.
But I mean, those are like the best fucking ones. But I don't mind the genre, but it's weird that it's become a trope.
There's quite a big trope, to be fair. There was actually one. I've watched a lot of random ones, to be fair, but there are quite a few isekais. There's the.
But it's weird that like the fact that it's a person getting transported into a magical world. Like, why has that become a genre? Like, I don't mind it, and I wouldn't mind like one of them every 3 years. But now it's so fucking often, and I do think that Konosuba had an interesting take on it. RE0 was like probably not the first, but it was like the first big one, right? And that was good. It was really good. But I don't know. It's like that specifically becoming a genre is really fucking weird.
Well, there's a lot of shit animes out there with like really weird genres, isn't there? So
yeah. I mean, there's also that recent. I don't know, like. But what do you think of isekai as a genre? Do you think that it hurts the chances of getting a new Goblin Slayer type anime where it's just a fantasy anime straight up?
No, I think it actually creates more room for it, to be honest, because everyone's getting sucked into this reincarnated as or transported to.
That's another one. Yeah, that's a good one as well.
Yeah,
maybe I like it.
So everyone's sort of focusing on that, which means it creates more room for it to come and make a big
Maybe
hit.
it will give people more of a chance to enjoy a fantasy thing.
Yeah,
and then we'll see.
Because it's fantasy without the previous knowledge of another world kind of shit. There's even one that I actually started watching the other day because I was just like, it's on trending and I couldn't be bothered to watch what I've currently got playing through at the moment. I had a few minutes to spare, so I was like, I'll watch the first episode. It's farming in another world where a guy dies and then gets transported into another world with the omnipotent farming tool, and he basically starts a new life farming in another world. And I've watched the first episode and I was just like, to be fair, that's pretty fantasy for you right there.
Well, also animes about very, very specific topics.
Yeah,
like I don't think I would ever watch like a volleyball anime, but Sean's watched one. He says it's amazing. And,
I ended up thinking, I watched that with Layla actually.
I can't remember what it was called, but it was
Haiku.
Oh yes,
that one is really good because it's about the team, about a boy who's short and shouldn't be good at volleyball. But
I think that farming one
great.
sounds like it would interest me because like I think
Farming Simulator, you like those kind of games anyway.
Fucking love them.
And it literally. It does actually. There's a lot of that goes into play because you have to think, well, I need wood, I need this, I need that, I need that.
Well, it was like ProZD did that video that I'm going to now butcher completely, but he did that one where he's like, he's watched an anime about drinking water, and he's like, yeah, I like a tall glass and I like a slightly lower pH balance. He's like after watching a sports anime, it's like, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, James. I don't think it hurts the chances of it. I think it means that more fantasy animes might get made that aren't specifically that genre. He also says, also, what system aside from Savage Worlds would rock for having modern military forces fight fantasy ones like in Gate? Do you know what Gate is?
I haven't watched it.
Is it anime as well?
It's one of them. I think it's one of them 3D ones, but I'm probably mistaken. Because,
no, thanks.
No, that's Gantz, isn't it? Oh,
yeah, that's Gantz. Or is it Code Geass?
Code Geass, a Lil out of the revolution.
Is it US? I've been to Japan, and you're more of a weeb than me. How is that possible?
Because of my heritage, bro. No, I'm joking.
You're a Philippine. It's like, you know, people that say
Philippine. Oh man, that's fucking good.
No, you know, because it's like it was originally Weeaboo and then Korea Boo, so it's now Philippine as well.
Korea Boo.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Gate is, so sorry about that.
Yeah,
but military forces fight fantasy ones. Cyberpunk would probably be pretty fucking good. I mean, there's the closest you get to a monster in Cyberpunk is probably like, you know, somebody that's like Adam Smasher, somebody that's like Turbo Cyberpunk. But the shooting in that is so very good, and the cover-based stuff. If you wanted something that feels military, like, because I'm thinking something like maybe like Gears of War, I think Cyberpunk would do pretty good at that.
I reckon you could probably get away with it in Cyber Sprawl Classics.
Yeah, but that's still DCC or MCC. No, it technically isn't, though, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so suck it. Yeah, do that. And he said, and when can we expect the DCC or MCC version of Iron Chef? Have you watched Iron Chef?
No,
You may be aware of it, though, peripherally, because there's a bit in Futurama where they're doing an Iron Chef-like competition, and there's an alien, and they can get away with it because it's an alien. It's not a Japanese bloke. And he goes, "That sword costs $10,000. Do you remember that? Yeah. That's based on the Iron Chef guy, and I think it's like his nephew now presents Iron Chef. I watched the whole fucking series of it. It's so fucking good. It's just a cooking show with professional cooks that come together and they make love, and it's beautiful. No, they have like cooking challenges that they do, and it's presented by this Japanese bloke because it was originally a Japanese TV show. And I don't know what he says, and this is going to sound racist, but every time he goes, "In the words of my uncle, and then they start cooking. It's fucking great. It's nothing near what he actually says, but like, I think it might actually just be "Itadakimasu."
What?
I don't know, but yeah, the presenter's so over the top, and he like looks between cameras and he goes, "This challenge is all about hot," and then it'll be like they have to cook with chilies or something like this. But it's so over the top because Japanese TV is fucking annoying. Barg with the Infamous, he says, "What's the most annoying imaginable form of bardic performance that could still serve as a basis for bardic magical abilities?" So usually it's musical, right?
Yeah.
Stylophone. That would be pretty bad, wouldn't it? Have you ever seen the bad videos of that black guy that he tries to do theremin covers of things, and he doesn't know how bad he is, and it's like he does Game of Thrones, and you know people tend to use the higher notes when they're playing a theremin. He's doing the low notes, and it's like it literally sounds like Trombone Champ, that video game. Like, it's that fucking bad. And he's dressed up in a suit of armour trying to play the Game of Thrones theme, and it's so bad. So I think theremin, because I think people assume it's easy. And theremin is actually a really...
you wave your hands about.
It actually takes a lot of skill.
Oh, it's just very... Yeah.
So theremin, stylophone...
the honky tonk, that would be quite intense.
Which one's a honky tonk?
Isn't that the big ass motherfucker? Isn't that the one? Oh no, what's the large one that's like a whole music station? Oh,
like a one-man band.
Yeah, but the
no, I know there's a term for it, but yeah, but basically, yeah, something like that would be pretty shitty.
Or also,
especially because all of your teammates are gonna have to lug it to every dungeon.
Accordion's pretty bad because it's two-handed and both hands are strapped in.
Slapophone? No, actually, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
No, slapophone is like, you know, those pipe instruments that Blue Man Group use.
Oh, sorry. I literally thought it was, you know, when you have the paddles to slap.
You were thinking of somebody slapping a phone, weren't you? Just be honest. Hello? Okay, no ring-dings for you then. Yeah, there's a lot really, isn't there? But does it have to be a musical performance if you're a bard? I feel like opera singing would be pretty bad if you had anyone that wanted to do stealth. Because there's a bloke that does, that practices, who lives on that road there. That I'm not going to say, but he and you can hear him. It's fucking loud, man.
Is he good?
Yeah, he's amazing, but like it's just so loud.
Yeah, you really have to belt it.
Yeah, I know. Microphones are for wimps. Right. Next one, the Hussman. He says, "What 3 mechanics would you borrow from other games to bring into a 5e game?" All right. Now I read this earlier and I came up with a very witty answer, and I'm going to say 1. I would bring in the rolling system from Savage Worlds, right? 2, I'm going to bring in the stats and character creation from Savage Worlds. And then 3, the book of Savage Worlds. No, but like 3 exploding dice.
Exploding dice is
so when you roll the highest number on any dice, you roll it again. Maybe not on the D20 button damage dice. That would make 5e basically super fucking deadly, and it would be fun as shit.
Yeah.
Cards for initiative. I am again just porting Savage Worlds mechanics over. I would probably, if you use magic from DCC, would be a good shout.
Oh, mate, that'd be sick though, wouldn't it?
It would be amazing, yeah. I think also maybe cover from Cyberpunk would be kind of fun because it's quite a big aspect to the whole thing. So maybe the cover and health system to the point where you've now got people having to think about cover on a battlefield while they sling spells over to each other. They're kind of fun.
Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting take.
What about you? 3 mechanics you've got to bring into a 5e game to make it better.
I know 5e do the inspiration tokens, right? Mm-hmm. But use them like we have.
Just replace them as bennies. Yeah.
As bennies, yeah.
Yeah, just a reroll token.
Yeah.
Easy.
Because that's what we do, and it's great. And
XP from DCC would be a good one as well. Because I think
it is actually
5e is all, like if you're not killing shit, you're not really getting good experience unless you use milestones.
Because I feel like that's a big reason why there's a lot of murder hobos out there.
Yeah, and also
like,
why.
Oh, well, I'm just going to kill this guy. Why? Because he's a tramp and it gives me XP.
Tramps are worth 1 XP each.
I'll kill a lot of them then.
Well, yeah, I mean, and why a lot of D&D adventures just involve killing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really distracts. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Professor Dungeon Master said in one of his videos, he was like, well, at the back of the book here, it does suggest that you could use an alternate XP system. It's like, but it's a paragraph buried right at the back under optional rules. It's like,
you're not really going to read into them, are you?
Right, let's do one more of these.
Yeah, boy.
Actually, we've got 2 because I think that there's some other ones that might. There's 2 because one of them is going to be quick. No clever name Sid. He says, I have a question. Why are all of the anime fans I know weirdo perverts that are only turned on by barely legal, scantily clad, and poorly animated Japanese girls? Listen, fuck you, right? Because I've been playing this great game called Tokimeki Memorial where you date high school girls. It's not as weird as you think it is. I mean, it is a little bit. No, it's just a good fucking game. Shut up. Yeah, why are they, James? Why are you like this? Why are you?
This is where we need Sean on here so we can ask him why he's like it.
Well, yeah, I just thought of a bunch of things I could say that would probably annoy my mum. Because she doesn't like it when I talk smack about Sean.
Well, tell me what to say and I'll say it.
I don't think she likes it when anyone does. But, yeah, I don't know.
No, I love him, really.
I tell you what it is. I actually think most normal anime fans, and I'm not one of them, I don't like much anime, right? But I like enough to know this, is that in Japan there are different expectations and qualities that you see in media, right? So there is like the titty stuff and stuff like this. I think most normal anime fans just accept that as a flaw of the entire medium as a whole, but basically ignore it, right?
Oh yeah,
because Goblin Slayer,
I think it's funny.
Exactly. When we've watched anime together, that's the bit we laugh at. Like, Goblin Slayer is a great anime that I recommend for people that don't even watch anime, but it does have a lot of that stuff in it. But it's something that is just like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then
I feel like it's overdone like twice, I say twice, a couple times, but on purpose.
Yes.
Because it's so intense.
I think often it is a joke.
Yeah, it has to be.
Even like good animes, like adult animes, like Cowboy Bebop, because I feel like there's a difference between a sexual character and a sexualized character, right?
Yeah.
See, Bayonetta, I think, is a sexual character.
Yep.
You can imagine her having sex, right? Whereas a sexualized character is like the type of things you usually see in anime where they've got giant breastises. But like Cowboy Bebop even has a lot of fan service in it, and that's one I would also recommend to anyone. But it's just something you have to accept if you want to, because some of these stories are good enough to actually watch, right? It's just, but by law of averages, even if you hate all anime, there's probably one that you're going to like, and it's probably.
Well, it's like, I mean, even in I've started rewatching Attack on Titan with my daughter.
That's one with actually very little.
Yeah,
of any of that.
But when the title sequence changes during the first season, there's like a little section where it's got like Mikasa training in it, and then she's got like it just looks a bit booby, and then Layla actually at one point just went boobs like just as the trailer was going on. But I mean,
just for a frame of reference, Layla, James's daughter, is basically an adult.
Yeah, pretty much.
Annoyingly.
Yeah, I know it's weird. I hate it, but also don't, because she's my daughter.
Basically, well, yeah.
But yeah, there's like, I thought that was absolutely hilarious, because that's specifically, I think it's actually just a well-drawn bit of art or a well-animated piece of art, as opposed to drawing attention to those appendages. But
They just happen to be there.
To be fair,
But the thing is, often
Layla's got my humour. So
But often they're also she very much
I was
does.
thinking it.
But she said it. She
Yeah.
said what you're all thinking.
Yeah.
But basically, a lot of the time, it's so ridiculously proportioned that I don't think anyone's supposed to take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean there are a few animes where they do it outrageously on
Kaijo.
purpose.
Kaijo being the best example, which is a future sport anime.
Coming to us everywhere soon, please.
Yes, please. It's on Crunchyroll. You can go and watch it. And it's a future sport, a fictional sport where it's basically sumo, but the only way you're allowed to actually hit your opponents is with your tits and arse.
Yeah, boy.
And oh God, please, for the Olympics 2020, whatever, Kaijo, please. The very last one comes in from Griffiana, and they say favourite board games. Well, we have answered this one before, and I did say that I don't really like board games, but I do like Carcassonne.
Yeah. That is
Chess. That one's a classic. I think it's really going places. And I recently played Monopoly. I hate Monopoly, but I recently played it with my 8-year-old niece.
Does Mario Party count? Because it's technically a board game.
I think yes. I think it does.
Because that's right up there.
It's the best one.
Yeah.
End of.
But there's quite a large collection in my house, and photosynthesis is pretty good, where you have to plant seeds, grow them into trees, and generate money. I've played Wingspan once.
Wingspan actually looks fun.
It's basically like it's technically a card collecting game, but it's you're having to like lay eggs and.
Oh yeah,
and
tell me,
like
are we back on the anime shit again?
And birds and shit, and so it's that kind of stuff. Quite a good one. For me,
please God, hurry up! I need to piss.
Shut up! It's mentally taxing, but it is literally a farming simulator, which is Agricola.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
And that's very good. You can play one whole game in half an hour, but for me, it's so mentally taxing because you really need to try and think like 10 moves ahead.
Oh, Exploding Kittens is quite good.
Oh, that's fun.
Hold on. That's upstairs, isn't it?
Yeah. I do play a lot of Munchkin with the girls because
I can't play it with you because you're too competitive, and I don't.
Oh no, I'm not like that anymore.
Okay, right, we'll play it again.
Yeah, it's
but
good.
then Millie will still be like that when she's at a hospital, and then it would just be fucking annoying. I like Obama Llama. See, I like the party game type ones.
Uno, that's always great. I know
what
it's not
about
a board game.
Jackbox Party Pack?
That's great.
Why don't you tell people what you drew on a shirt in one of those games?
No, man. Well, we all know that what gets,
it was amongst
what T-shirt gets made and Jackbox Party.
But you can buy a print of those T-shirts, and okay, so I'm not going to say who did it, but there was on Jackbox Party Pack. There's a game in it where you have to people write down slogans, and then people draw symbols, and then at the end of the round, everyone has to combine them
to create a T-shirt.
To create a T-shirt,
you only get a very small selection out of all the drawn and written items.
And somebody ended up. No, I'm actually not going to say it. But let's just say it was a very prominent symbol in Germany during the World War II. Let's just put it that. With the phrase N-word's going to N on there. But fortunately, it wasn't me that did it, so I don't care.
No, it wasn't me either. So.
No, it wasn't. Literally wasn't. And and he also says hated/disliked board games. Actually, another big up to Hero Quest. That's a good one.
Oh, fuck me. The Hero Quest is right at the top.
That's a great one.
That's amazing.
Hated board games. I fucking hate Monopoly. It's dull. It's boring. I like Cluedo, actually, but that also gets a bit old. I'm actually, despite the fact that I read a lot and do enjoy reading, I am an idiot. And I really like Scrabble, but I can't play it for shit. You know, anything
Scrabble
above a 3-letter word.
But it's like. I don't know, because it's not.
It's a game I like, but I have no talent for. Because when I see a jumbled up bunch of letters, I always just see it exactly as that. I mean, maybe I've got some sort of disability, but Millie's the type of person who can get the countdown conundrum on Countdown and stuff like this. And I'm just like, I look at those letters and I just be like, at. That's good enough.
Look at it and go, sniff nibblum. That's it.
You know when 8 out of 10 Cats does countdown?
Yeah.
When people come up with funny justifications for making up words. And I remember one time there was a bunch of... I'm just literally quoting a panel show at this point. But John Richardson, he came up with one that was EIEI Padre. And it was like when you're a farmer and you're using an iPad. And I just thought that was pretty funny. But like, if there was a way to play Scrabble like that, I would really enjoy it.
Oh,
if you can get away with the justification of a made-up word. I mean, we played it similarly once, and James just put down EC, and I was like, what does that mean? He's like, like, take it easy. Anyway, right, that is it for
a while.
Yeah, let's go to the outro.
Well, the Penguins have made it, and they're going up against the Golden Knight. Interesting, the Penguins have outflanked the Golden Knight. They're pushing in with a rear attack. He is now caught both sides. Classic pincer manoeuvre, just the way the World War II soldiers were done in.
Seriously, I mean, if you do want to get in contact, give him the contact info anyway, just in case. Because, if we do a bonus or anything like this, we can always read out questions or anything that we receive.
Well, 100%. So the Discord link is always in the description, so just take a peep at that. Best way to contact us is the freetrpgpod@gmail.com. We do have a Facebook that's not utilised much. Discord is probably the place to be, even though I don't look at it much. There is a Twitter somewhere. But there are products which aren't going anywhere at all on the bloody fucking drive-through RPG. So just look up Free T RPG Publishing.
And if I can recommend 100 weird widgets if you're playing sci-fi post-apocalyptic stuff. So, and I can say this because it was a long time ago. I think it's actually really funny, and also because Nick was very much involved with writing. So
yeah, they have added such a fun flavour to MCC for us over the past 11 sessions. They've been really, really good, quirky. But the thing is, I think it's the players, us at the table, we found good uses for them. Really
for example, dehydrated water, which was like, what was it? It was less of the H, more of the O, or something like this. And it was literally just a bottle of oxygen.
Yeah,
you happened to be underwater at the time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so Patreon-wise, search up 3TRPG Podcast on Patreon. Now, we're going to keep that up just to host the podcast so people can still download it, re-listen to old episodes, as I know some people like to do. Send us an email on the email that James has already mentioned if you have any suggestions for how we can host this stuff for free, and then we can just maybe shut the Patreon down altogether. But, yeah, thanks for everything over the last 7...
2016, so it'll be 4, 5, 6, 7. 7th year would have been in September, yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, no. We didn't make it to 7 years, so 6 and a bit years.
6.5. 6.5 is good. Well, to be finished, this isn't goodbye forever.
It's not goodbye forever, but in its current format,
it's
going to be a hiatus, at least.
We won't be able to keep up with the output, basically. So the episodes will be...
we'll probably put one out as a little surprise every now and then.
Yeah, but you're going to get no notification. They're just going to appear. Probably.
They'll appear.
Just appear.
They'll appear right up you. So, for the last time for a while, I've been Harrison Hunt.
I've been James Clark.
I remembered at 20Ds, I'd fucked it up. Goodbye, everyone.
Yes! That's fitting.